This is Lauren.
This is Trey.
And this
is the Partnership Podcast. Hello, tens of listeners. The topic of this podcast, creative monogamy in the erotic mind, and how Lauren and I incorporate creative monogamy within our relationship. Enjoy.
Good morning, baby.
Morning, Sugar.
It's been a while.
It's been a while.
It's been a while.
It's been a while.
How you doing? How's your Monday?
Really good, really productive. Came off of a productive Sunday. How's your Monday going?
Great. I love Mondays.
Good.
Everybody knows this. I just hurt my finger, but we're fine.
You'll be fine.
No, yeah, good Sunday on my end too. Work's really busy right now. It's really busy. So just trying to find a new balance. First year, happy birthday, sex ed for you. Yesterday, my first birthday. So I've been in business a year.
Congratulations, honey.
And
more congratulations. Congratulations on your
official
graduating.
Yeah.
Graduating? Graduating. I'm congratulating you for...
Thank you. Yeah, my official certificate came from my certified holistic sexuality educator. Anyone who's done a program like that, LPC, yada, yada, there's just so many hours. Mm-hmm. And I was waiting on, just a couple things for months.
It's like the equivalent of getting your master's in sexual education?
Yeah, it's equivalent to a specialty program. It's a certification program, so anyone who's done like an intensive cert like that understands. But this was hundreds of hours of online classes and live streaming classes and supervision and paper writing. It was really intense, but I'm glad it was. You asked me some fun questions about my biggest takeaways, and I think absolutely my colleagues, how I learned to study research, the sexual attitude reassessment, a SAR, and what was my last one? Oh, how to teach. I mean, I just learned so many phenomenal teaching tools, and I use them every day. Like every day. I have never been so happy for money I spent.
Yeah.
Yeah. Like it really feels like the best investment.
Yeah, that's awesome. Like they taught you practical skills within your field where like all of my diplomas, it's mostly just theory. Yeah. Where it was all theory.
And this was a lot of hands-on skills. In fact, that was one of the questions we would always get faced with is, okay, so that's theory. How does it apply? And
they never asked me that fucking once. I have a master's. They never asked me that one time.
That's sad.
How does that apply? They wanted to know about APA formatting. That's what they wanted to know. And then they wanted to check. Hey, good for them, though. I mean, I needed the degree because I needed the degree qualified me to get this job, but it was all bullshit.
We'll talk about that another day. Yeah. I mean, our feelings on
higher education,
because the sad thing is we both love learning. We are like little sponges when it comes to things. It's not that we're anti-learning, but that is a soapbox. We'll get on that another day. We're here to talk about one of my favorite subjects today. And in the same way that you asked me a bunch of questions about that one podcast that you listened to, Matt and Shane. Mm-hmm. I'd like to bring up one of my favorite people, one of my kind of like heroines in the field of sexuality education, and that's Esther Perel, which she's pretty much, I wouldn't even say, she's not a household name, but if people ask what I do and then they say kind of like Esther Perel, I'm like, yeah, kind of like her. Very much an ideas but a practicality person. Her podcast is amazing, but she has a TED Talk, which is one of the ways that people got to know her really well a long time ago. And she talks about desire, and long-term relationships comes up in my work a lot. I work with a lot of folks who have been in monogamous relationships for a while, and they're curious if desire is dead, if their sexual attraction to their partner is dead, or if there's a way to rekindle, reaccess something, or if it's just done. And so I went back to one of my original favorite Esther TED Talks and made a worksheet for some clients recently. And I'd love to just ask you some of the questions. Would that be okay?
Fun, yeah.
Because this is stuff that we talked about day one. When we went away for the weekend after we met, one of the things we discussed, because it's something that's truly important to me, is the idea of one person not being our everything. That's a concept that I got from Esther Had you heard that before? Was that a desire for you before?
Never that specific, but it so resonated because I was taught that you need to be busy and independent and focused on your missions and your tasks. And then that person comes along and complements your already fulfilling life. So yeah, but
so yes, and
totally resonated.
yeah, because I just remember bringing it up to you and you not bristling at it at all, but me saying, in my first marriage, yeah, it was suffocating. It was suffocating. And, we were dealing with mental health stuff. We were dealing with suppression of true sexual identity. We were dealing with a lot of things, but I was my first husband's everything.
Got it.
And I think I thought I had to be. Like, I want to own that
was your
too.
duty. You were duty bound to that.
I think the things that had been, and Esther talks about this in the video that I'll have a link in the notes, that is one of the downfalls, is that we all have a little bit been trained to think that, oh, once you get married, your partner is your best friend, your lover, your confidant, your biggest cheerleader, your coach, your educator, you're the parent of your children, right? That is a lot of roles to take on, a whole lot of roles. Yeah, but she talks about that innately as human beings, we have a desire for security and home. Do you feel like you have an innate desire for those things, security and home?
I think that's very human. Security and home is like the basic needs. Yeah.
Did you tell a story about how you just went away when you traveled? Did you miss me?
Yeah, I missed the shit out of you.
Was that a new experience?
It was, I was extremely lustful. That was like a new experience. And then I really didn't like because I was on the other side of the country, so I didn't like the geography, how far away I was from you. That was interesting because, like, because we're on the East Coast, and say if you go up to New York City, you're closer.
In your head, yeah.
Yeah. So I didn't really dig that, but yeah, it was. I missed the shit out of you. I really missed my wife, but I missed. Yeah, I was so fucking horny.
For me or for like bodies on the street?
No, for you.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, bodies on the street didn't do it.
Interesting.
Yeah.
I find it so funny.
As another thing though, like on the West Coast, I mean, there's so many pretty people too.
Yeah,
but it wasn't
area.
my energy wasn't going toward that, but it was reminiscent of my hunting days. But it was really the lust was focused after you.
And we're going to get to that because Esther has a theory that we all kind of fall into one of three categories of how to kind of like stir up. If we wanted to stir the pot on desire, most people have a certain way that happens, but I want to get to that in just a second if that's okay. Do you think you also have a desire for adventure, unexpected, and surprise?
Kinda.
Yeah.
No, I don't.
So I want our audience to hear.
It's like, what's that? No.
That it's very normal and this is Wednesday Martin's research, but it is very normal for married hetero men to say that. Isn't this interesting? That they're like, no. And married
like,
hetero.
Babe, I was up at 5:30. I got this.
I
got
know.
This at 8:30. I want to knock out the other podcast.
I'm just stating what the research says.
And then I got golf.
I'm stating what the research says.
I got
the
stretch
research
before
says
there. I got a timeline, baby.
That women want that though.
Sure.
Isn't that interesting? So the
but
research
do you want it,
says
like today, like that's kind of a loaded question. Like, do you want it all the time? Do you want to be? Yes. That is sexy though, where it's like, babe, get a toothbrush, put like something. Hear me out. Watch this, people. Baby, I need you to pack jammies, put a toothbrush in there. Don't ask another question.
Yeah, super hot. Yeah, super hot.
Go ahead.
Yeah.
Go ahead.
We've already had to stop the cameras once, everybody. Okay. I want our listeners to hear that most, especially men who love if we're talking hetero people here, who love their partner, they're like, no, I don't really need unexpected and surprise and adventure. So this is just an interesting thing to note. That's all. I just wanted to hear what you would say because I didn't. Okay. What do you think of this question? And this goes into our favorite recent term of creative monogamy. Okay. Esther has this quote: "A crisis of desire is often a crisis of imagination."
Can you define what creative monogamy is first?
No, I was going to do that reverse. I was going to ask this question first.
Ask it again.
But thanks.
I'll edit this.
You don't have to. It's fun. I love how we both teach and coach in different ways, and your brain processes things differently. So do you want me to? Do you want me to divide, give my Dr. Jolie? Okay.
Do your thing,
baby. Okay. What do you think of this quote? A crisis of desire is often a crisis of imagination.
Cool. Correlates. Yes.
Why, in your mind? Crisis of desire is often a crisis of imagination.
I just think it correlates.
Yeah. What I find so fascinating is that, remember those cornerstones of eroticism that I talk about all the time? So this is Dr. Jack Moran. That anticipation and longing, violating prohibitions, search for power, overcoming ambivalence. That's all rooted in imagination. It's
what's going to happen next?
Yes.
Or maybe this will happen.
Yes. Where does that live?
I don't get caught.
That lives in our imagination. It's not in actuality. It's in our imagination. A friend of mine actually lives out in LA, and she went on 8 dates this weekend. 8.
8 different men?
She set it all up back to back. She challenged herself
the entire week, right?
No.
A
8
weekend?
dates in a week. Friday, Saturday, Sunday.
I'm just saying,
it was
for all
a
these
social
men,
experiment.
Doing coffee dates. Ugh.
It was a social experiment.
Okay.
And there were a few good
I'm
ones.
not oohing all these men that are going to do coffee dates and be overly polite.
It was a qualify. It was the first qualify.
I ain't above it.
It was the first qualify. Some of these guys made round 2. They're getting it. Some of it was dinner dates.
Sure.
Yeah. One guy took her to open ses.
Okay.
Yeah. I was like, shout out.
Shout out.
We're getting distracted. What was so fun to watch was her imagination about these people before she even met them, right?
Okay.
The thoughts in the head. This is where eroticism lives, is in our imaginations and in the anticipation or in some of these other things I'm going to share. Okay. So creative monogamy. Why are you laughing?
Because it's she had to have run into at least one of these guys while she was on a date with another guy. If it's 8 dates
it's
over
LA.
a weekend. Was it a
them.
holiday weekend? Should she get 3 days?
Okay, Mr. Strategy.
I'm sorry. I keep trying to logisticize having 8 dates in a Saturday, Sunday period. She must have had Friday night in there, too.
She did.
Maybe Sunday night also. Okay, Friday night.
2 Friday night.
Saturday, all day. Jesus Christ. Go ahead. I'm getting off track. Go ahead.
Yes, you're getting off track. It was not the point of my little antidote. That was an antidote.
Good.
Okay, so I don't want to talk about creative monogamy yet. I want to get to it. I think that concept that desire is often linked to imagination is oh so true, right? What are they going to be wearing? How are they going to smell? Or that thing of us being far apart, right? Longing for my smell, longing for my body, right? All in the imagination. Okay, Esther also says this, that love equals the feelings of to have, and that desire equals feelings of to want. Bless you. Esther also says we're wrecked today. That love is often equal of these feelings to have, to possess, okay? And that desire often equals wanting.
Mm-hmm.
Would you connect with that?
Maybe.
Okay.
It's hard for me to do these things on the fly because my mind goes to one place and then actually actualizing what I think about it. Mm-hmm. It's better for me these types of kind of philosophical maybe or analogies. I just need more time with. I don't know.
But we talk about this all the time. I want your real thoughts. I don't want you to answer. So yeah, let me preface.
Say it one more time.
We talk about these things all the time, right? We talk about desire. We talk about how we nurture desire here, okay, in this relationship, okay?
Love is to want, and then desire is to...
desire is to want.
Desire is to want, then love is to what? Have?
To have.
To have? I guess. I don't know.
Okay.
I mean, want and have, I think, are interchangeable.
Okay.
So,
interesting. No opinion.
No opinion. Next question.
Okay,
no comment.
so I want to know when you're most drawn to me. Okay, I'm going to give you 3 different scenarios.
Okay.
Think you can answer this one?
Yeah, A, B, or C. Oh, dude, I'm a wizard at these.
My gosh.
This is where I'm a Viking.
Okay. Are you most drawn to me when we're apart, when you see me in my element, or when I'm surprising to you, when you learn something new about me, or I wear something different? So let me rephrase them again, okay? When we're apart, like you traveling, when you see me in my element, like if I'm teaching or something like that, or when you learn something new or like I do something new.
Apart.
Really?
Mm-hmm.
Why? And tell me, give me examples.
I think it's because my imagination gets to play. Yeah. Like when you're in your element, you're in work mode. And I love that, but like it's like Mama's focused on her craft, which I love. So in another, like AKA is like, you know, I don't get to mount you.
No.
And then
Do not.
And then C is when I learn something new about you. I love celebrating that, but it's not going to, I'm not saying it doesn't get me hard because that doesn't sound right. But like, I love celebrating that, but it's not a erotic turn on. That's another type of turn on.
Fascinating. Ask me.
Oh, it's a back and forth?
Yeah, ask me that question.
Oh yeah. Okay. What's your of the 3?
Think when I see you in your element. And then right near that is apart. I mean, oh my gosh, the moment you went away. Yeah, I wanted you again.
Because you get turned on when I'm like raking leaves outside, right?
And when you're in the downstairs and you like ignore me.
Yeah. It's like I have to do this
Yes.
right now.
Uh-huh.
I know you do like that where it's like I got to go.
Love it.
Yeah, okay.
So it's like, yes, you going to California for a weekend was it was the apartness, but it was also he's gonna go see his friends. He's gonna go like do his thing.
Element is also AKA on my mission.
Yeah,
or on my purpose.
This is what I want us to do, honey. I want us to take our words that our audience now loves, that they tell me that they use now, okay, and apply it to this modality. That's all. Like we don't need to become Esther. I want us to this.
Great.
I love it when you are on your purpose. You know why? Because down here, she talks about how neediness is the greatest anti-aphrodisiac.
100%.
Neediness?
100%.
100% greatest anti-aphrodisiac.
Yeah. There's an epidemic of needy men now.
Well, and it doesn't matter your gender. You could be genderless. If you are needy...
Yeah,
I hear
generally,
you.
I can speak for
you.
men, and
yes.
I can identify what's going
yes.
on with men faster than I can with women.
Agreed. That's your lived experience. 100%.
Yeah, well put. And so I think there's an epidemic of needy men. And then, I mean, the big mistake that men make is you can be needy. You don't go get that from your lady.
From your lover.
No, you don't. Because it dries the pussy up.
It is true. Well, because that's Esther's sole sole foundational premise of her work, right? Is that's I need my partner to be everything. I want her to be my mother too. And there ain't nothing that dries the pussy up, to use your phrasing, more than, I need to be maternal now.
Yeah, I heard Esther talk about that, where it's like anything maternal is not, and rightfully so.
Yeah, we talked. I mean, I think that's where some of our biggest conflicts come in.
Anything paternal also is not.
Same. When you feel like you have to father me.
Correct. It's a huge turn off. And in past relationships, it's been a huge turn off. It kills eroticism.
Yeah, 'cause I'm just thinking back now to when we get each other really turned on.
Mm-hmm. And then when we get each other really turned off.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Yeah. I remember when we filmed the TV show, we spent more time together in those 5 days filming than we probably had ever spent together before. Yes. Because it was 8-9 hour film days.
Like literally next to each other too. Because then we're on a plane too. Like literally next to each other.
Oh my gosh. Sure. And we were both like, and then having to like walk through, do things repetitively over and over.
Have bosses. Yeah.
That was really tough.
They were awesome.
They were so sweet. Yeah. It was definitely more time than we had ever spent together before.
Correct.
Yeah. I think, okay, so we'll get to how one of the things that nurtures eroticism so much in our partnership is our space that we give each other, because our imaginations, our personal imaginations, are set free, right? I don't control your erotic imagination. You don't control mine, right? So whether it's that the time apart is the thing for you that's making you more horny for me, and the thing for me that's making me horny is that you are out perfecting golf for yourself, right? Or you're out nurturing relationships with people, or you're out at Big Brother, Big Sister, whatevs. It's my imagination, right? That's like, love it.
So one could say that spending time apart will default increasing erotic imagination. If you're given that space in a healthy manner, because I can see the opposite of like someone constantly checking in on the other person, and that fucking sucks.
Yeah. Well, and there need to be, right? I should say now.
Where are you? What are you doing? What time are you going to be home?
Oh my gosh.
Are you out having fun?
My ex-husband used to do that, and it was so horrifying because there was no erotic connection, obviously, happily gay.
Uh-huh.
And yet I still got all of those when I would go away, like all of those check-in, like where are you? When will you be home? And it was oh so heartbreaking.
Was it a control thing?
Yeah, and fear and mental health. But so I will say, to that note, as a sexuality educator, for some couples, there needs to be some other things first, right? But developing a sense of separateness, amazing for the erotic. Amazing. Ooh. Sex isn't something you do. Sex is someplace you go.
Like in the imagination?
Yeah. Isn't that really a neat thought?
Sure. Like if you're incorporating like erotic imagination while in the actual act of sex? Mm-hmm. Sure.
I love this concept of sex isn't something you do, sex is someplace you go, because for the person who needs adventure, me, okay, that is what makes sexual encounters so wonderful for me, is they feel like a little mini adventure. They feel like a little mini trip, like a little mini escape. When I find myself feeling like sex is just something I do, right? Sex is something I need to give you, which is not on you, that's on me. Yeah, that's when it becomes a chore and blah and void of fun and play and curiosity. When sex is someplace I go to as a antidote to pain, or an antidote for the monotony of life, or the antidote to stress, or the antidote to whatever else, or just for fun. Yeah, that's when it comes alive for me. That's when it really comes alive for me. Can we talk about our imagination now and our creative monogamy? Okay, so one of my favorite teachers and professors in the world, Dr. Jolie Hamilton, coined this term, creative monogamy. And I think I mentioned it to you, a year ago or so? Mm-hmm. Yeah. And we love it for this reason. Basically, the premise is that within the erotic imagination, which Esther says this too, which is highly politically incorrect. Very often, the erotic imagination is not at all things that you would condone in the daytime.
Like what we imagine doing sexually.
Yes.
Okay.
Yes. Esther said it's the things you would demonstrate against in the day are the things you'd want to do in the bedroom at night.
Okay.
For a lot of people.
Okay.
For a lot of people.
Great.
Not everyone, but for a lot of people. I would say I spend 40% of my time as a sexuality educator helping to normalize people's sexual fantasies.
Okay.
Because they feel so disconnected from them, like they feel horrified by them.
Guilt-ridden.
Mm-hmm. And that's Freud's fault. But yeah. Okay. So Esther encourages it. Dr. Jack Moran encourages it. But Dr. Jolie Hamilton talks about creative monogamy in that so many of us do want adventure and spontaneity and like creativity, right? And so a way that we have incorporated group scenarios and, inviting other people into our bedroom and different power dynamics and different fantasies is that we share our fantasies out loud to each other.
With each other, yes.
All the time.
Mm-hmm.
All the time.
Yeah.
Had you ever done that with another partner before?
No.
Why not, do you think?
Fear of criticism, fear of hurting the other person's feelings, fear of the consequence.
The concept. What would a consequence be? Like, give me an example.
Oh, is that what you want? Oh. But this is in my head also.
Yeah.
So, is that I'm not good enough for you?
Yeah. Mm-hmm. Yeah. Right. I often hear that, or I'll hear this concept of why can't I just be happy with what's in front of me type of concept.
Sure.
Right. Right. Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. And it gets in our heads, and then that destroys the moment. And so you want to talk about what you and I have done? How do we share erotic fantasies? What does this look like? Yeah.
I just think it's so liberating that we get to unapologetically share our erotic fantasies with each other. And then we both know that this stays in the imagination. That's the key part. And we both understand and know that we're not providing something for each other. This is purely in our imagination because it's so easy to keep it in the imagination versus like put this into practice in reality. I don't need that. I don't want that. I can't logistically wrap my mind around all that. I don't have time for it. I can't do before care. I can't do after care for all of that. It stays in the imagination, and then we get to move on with our day.
I was thinking that you couldn't even logisticize the 8 dates.
I have a hard time wrapping my head around 8 dates right now. In my imagination, I can't really put those pieces together. God bless that woman. Baby, how does it work for you? What are like talk to me about your pluses and minuses, like your positives, your negatives for your creative
monogamy.
Yeah, eroticism, monogamy within this relationship.
Yeah, I would love to. I don't think there's many negatives with us, but I do think there are possible negatives in relationships in general, at least that I found. Maybe you have some, so you can share those too. The positives for me are it allows my body the adventure and the spontaneity and the surprise that I crave, and that I'm not going to, you said this earlier, I don't have time for, right? Like all of these rendezvous everywhere and like becoming all of these people. I just don't have time. The musical theater person in me loves it, but I don't know. We don't have the bars that I'd want to go to in my imagination. We don't have the places that I'd want to dress up like that I can so easily in my imagination, right? I am able to...
That's right. You're a stranger in your imagination.
Yeah.
Not the person that's born and raised in the same community in reality. Go ahead. I interrupted.
Isn't that beautiful though?
Yes.
Right? That gives me an opportunity to kind of stick it to the systems that raised me too. I wouldn't necessarily be this person in the everyday. I wouldn't, right? So I'll be really transparent with the audience. One of my greatest kinks, one of my greatest fantasies, one of my favorite imaginatory things is a power differentiation of like professor student, right? This is one of my favorite fantasies. I am not alone. So I hope people feel at peace with this. And it is not something that I condone in the real world, right? Hierarchies of power, abuse of power, not okay. In my imagination, hot as fuck. Sorry. It is such a turn on to me. I think a ton of it has to do with me being told as a young person forever that men had authority and that I was to be submissive and yada, yada. Y'all, that's how the erotic imagination is formed and is built. And I can't change how I was raised, but hell, can I harness it and make it into stories that I know arouse me and that I celebrate how they arouse me. So that's how it can be so good for me, is that I just have permission. I have permission to love my fantasies and share them with you. So can we talk about how in practicality that works? Like how that plays out sometimes?
Yeah.
I'll share and then you can share, like, because we kind of do it differently. We initiate that differently. Sometimes it starts with something I've read or seen or watched or just is stuck in my head recently. And so sometimes I will read a piece of erotic fiction. I'm big on having my students read erotic fiction. And so sometimes when I'm looking one up for them, I'm like, whoa, this story is doing it for me. So this is a recent thing that we've done and it's so fun. I will send you the link to an erotic story that I'm reading. For instance, when you're in the Sam's Club.
Parking lot.
You want to tell the rest of the story?
Yeah. So, been off porn. I'm off porn, and now it's erotic.
Your lady is
now it's
sending you
erotic.
erotic
Now
fiction.
I'm just scrolling right here, looking at words like, holy shit. So it's hot.
Yeah. Why is it? So it's hot in my brain because my imagination can just go wild. Why
It's
is
hot
it?
because it fires the imagination. Yeah. And if it's well written, and then if it's like erotic fantasy writers, if it's short, it's great.
Which is funny because in porn you've said that you like the buildup of the story, but in erotic fiction you just want it to go straight to the point.
Well, I don't want to read for 45 minutes because I get a little bored.
So sometimes the way we will start the erotic conversation is through that. Then when we find ourselves back together, we'll share a little bit of it. We'll talk about our favorite parts of the story. We'll whisper them to each other. This is different than role play. We're not like putting on costumes in these scenarios. We're not acting out a scene. It is literally just sharing a storyline. I have more of a difficulty being in the act of sex and speaking the fantasy pieces out. So often what will happen in our dynamic is I will find a beautiful orgasm. Then you will ask, what was it that finally got you there? What part of the story that maybe we both were imagining or maybe not? Then you give me the freedom to share. Then my storytelling.
Yes, that's one of my favorite things is after you've orgasmed, I want to know what was in your erotic mind. Yeah. And I just get to listen. Yeah. That's one of my favorite things on earth.
Yes, that would be one of the ways we do it. And at that point...
And then I receive whatever's going on in that dirty head of yours. I just receive it.
Right.
So I don't judge it.
Right.
I don't need to create it. I don't need to put this into oh, is this what she wants? Yeah. I just get to kind of receive all of this purified sexual energy coming at me. And it's it's what I live for. Yeah.
And then the perk, which Creative Monogamy talks about this, Dr. Jolie Hamilton's kind of concept. And you and I just say this all the time, that after you've had a beautiful orgasm as well, we collapse into each other's arms, we are there with our beloved. There is no aftercare with these other humans that have been in our fantasy. There's no one else to care for. Not that that is not beautiful. And consensual non-monogamy and polyamory can be stunning. And I affirm that lifestyle. I hope no one is hearing that this is anti that. What we are saying in this monogamous life that we've chosen, it is so fun to then collapse in the arms of our long-term partner that we've chosen and get all the good cuddles and get all the good, all the hormones that are gushing through our bodies with none of the regret, right? When it's a professor-student scenario, there would have been shame and guilt and all that other stuff. There ain't no shame and guilt here. I'm having sex with my husband, right? I didn't actually do anything. That's what's so beautiful about harnessing these things and bringing them to monogamy creatively is that we have those sides of us, right? Any Jungian theorist who knows about shadow work, right? We have those parts of us. It's why we love reading stories with villains in them. We like a good villain. So it's okay to go to these places in our imagination because that's where desire lives. Esther says in the video, it's like going to their red light district. It's what you just said. Ooh, take me where your mind goes.
Yeah, I like that.
Take me to your red light district. Because there's curiosity there. When we're long-term relationships are great for all the reasons we all know they're great, right? They provide security and home and good meals and cuddles and all that great stuff.
Sometimes they turn into business partnerships.
Kills desire. So, yeah. Okay. What would you say? How you share your erotic imagination different? What are the benefits? What are the risks?
There's always a risk of saying something that would offend you. So I always but I don't really temper it. But there's always that in the back of my mind. Yeah.
Oh.
Yeah.
I don't think I've ever thought of that regarding
Great.
you. I'm sorry.
No, I mean, great, though. That's great to hear.
That's so mean.
Well, no, honey, it's not on you. It's on me where there's always that kind of thing where I was like, oh, I don't want to, offend my lady or I don't want her. But it's not, that's something for me to work out. And I'm glad we're having this conversation in front of these cameras. So
they get to hear our most intimate things.
Yeah, so that's something. And then great. Yeah, good. I just won't apologize for it, but I don't generally hold back.
Do I do anything to make you feel like maybe?
No.
Okay.
I love it.
Okay.
I absolutely love it.
Okay. Yeah, so how do you share with me? Do you go about it differently?
Oh, do you know what it is? Kind of one of those things where it's like this is something different, but it's like, what if we ever wanted to put one of these things into practice, into reality? And then it's like, how do I talk to my babe about that? Mm-hmm. But that's a different conversation. Mm-hmm. And then I just start talking to you about it also. Yeah.
But back to my original question.
Yeah.
How do you share your erotic imagination, your sexual fantasies with me? How do you go about it?
I'll do it while we're in the throes of passion.
Shout out throws.
Shout out to the throes.
That's what it looked like you were going to do.
Or I'll tell you about it like, hey, babe, this is what I've just been imagining. Mm-hmm. That's it.
You will. I hope it's okay.
Yeah, you can answer this question better than I can.
We both try to have a morning pages practice. Shout out Hers Way. I feel like that's what you were trying to do with shout out throws. I've got the giggles today. I'm just like constantly in a smirk over here. So sometimes you will, and this is so incredible because I encourage my clients to do this too. You will write a sexual fantasy in your morning pages. It'll
Correct.
come to you. Yeah. And so then sometimes it's kind of like burning in you all day and you'll tell me little bits of it, or you'll say like, later tonight, I want to tell you about, or later this afternoon, or
images will pop into my head and then I'll expand on it throughout the day.
It's so beautiful. So are there any risks with us of sharing things? Is that the one you were just sharing, that you're afraid that eventually you might run into something that does hurt me or offend me, or is that a risk?
Yeah.
Okay.
Is that a risk for you? Love it.
Sorry.
Bring it on.
Maybe mine.
I welcome it so much.
Yeah, I know. You've always been so welcoming of it.
Yeah. It's just so.
It might be that I have a teenage erotic imagination and you have a full-grown adult erotic imagination. So maybe that's why. Maybe you have more experience.
More different partners.
Yeah, maybe. Yep. So maybe there's just that I'm I don't think I'll ever run into your hard and fast line of that was too far, you dirty-minded woman. I just don't think I'll run into.
Oh, we bring the ages up where you're you go with the 19-year-olds and stuff, yes. And I'm pump that age up.
Yes, that's true.
Yeah, give me
you can't
pump
do
that age up.
Yeah, see, this is where Esther says politically incorrect.
Pump that. Yeah.
This is something that in the real world I would fight against.
Yeah,
I
go
would
36
fight
minimum.
Against, and then
47.
My body.
3 times divorced.
You just love the older ladies.
Yes, I do.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. That is, we both have our things, babe. Mm-hmm. We both have our things. Esther talks a lot about, and I'd like to wrap up with this, sexual privacy. Having one of the main tenets of long-term eroticism is the freedom to have sexual privacy. What does that mean to you?
You got to go first. What does that mean to you?
Yeah, I've been thinking about this all morning.
It's different from sexual autonomy? Mm-hmm. But sexual autonomy sounds like I get to do whatever I want with my penis.
Yeah, I'm not saying that. That's not... I think every couple should define it, what sexual privacy means.
Sexual privacy.
I might be saying it wrong, but I don't think I am.
Or sexual freedom. Is that a difference? Is sexual freedom different than sexual? Sexual freedom is basement masturbating.
Your favorite pastime.
Yeah, my favorite pastime. What's Trey doing down there?
Now when people come over, they look at the basement like... Our darkest secrets. Sexual privacy, an amount of sexual privacy to me looks like freedom to engage in solo sex, right? With my own erotic imagination, to check in with my own body, my own fantasies, my own erogenous zones is the thing we use in the sexual health world, to reconnect.
Is there a difference between that and sexual freedom within the construct of our predetermined relationship? Is sexual privacy the same thing as like
I just think
sexual
it's another
freedom
term.
within our bounds or sexual?
I just think it's another
Yeah,
term.
another term. Okay,
Yeah.
sexual
Okay.
privacy means like, you know, a locked door, nobody's looking at my emails to me.
That's
So
secrecy.
that's not
No?
secrecy.
Oh,
It's
okay.
privacy. I get to lock the door and then nobody gets to look at my emails, you know? It's not secrecy, it's just privacy.
Okay. But what's in those emails?
Huh? Nobody's business. Not your business. Not the 7 people are watching it. Not their business. If this is an Instagram short that you've turned into, you just keep swiping. Don't look into my emails.
Trey does not want you looking at his emails. I didn't finish what I think sexual privacy is. I also think, I don't know why.
Don't you dare look at my emails.
I'm just gonna start.
If you incorporate you looking at my emails in your sexual fantasies,
I'm gonna be like,
if you're coming while you're,
I'm gonna start
looking at my
sending
emails.
you sexy emails. Is what I'm gonna start doing. I don't ever email you.
No.
Oh my god.
Privacy is just it's throwing me off. Getting back on track, it's throwing me off versus
I
freedom
think,
versus
can I
autonomy.
continue? You're such an interrupter.
You just interrupted me to say, can I continue?
Because you interrupted me. Listen. I think that sexual privacy also includes our erotic imaginations, and that so many people feel bad for what is in their erotic imaginations and for what truly turns them on. And there is never, and this is what I want to give you, a pressure to share with me what's in your erotic imagination.
Yeah, that's sexual privacy.
Thank you. See, if you had just let me finish, you would have gotten that nugget of wisdom. So now you have it. To me, it is a gift that I give you to share my erotic fantasies, but it is never a requirement.
No.
We will say sometimes, do you want to share what you were just thinking about when you came? Right? Mm-hmm. We will even use those words. Do you care to share with me?
And sometimes, very rarely, maybe 5% of the time, it's like,
yeah. Sometimes we will say that, and I want you always to have that.
Oh, one of fear of repercussion is, say, if a sexual fantasy of like a past partner pops into my head, and then I'm thinking about that while I'm with my wife. That's a rough one to share.
Okay. Well, it's very normal.
Yeah.
And if you ever want to share that, that's fine. So fine.
Would you receive that? Would you be turned on by that? Or it's like, this guy's fucking gross.
You know, I have a jealousy thing, like a good kind
of. Like a jealousy kink? Mm-hmm. I need to just start sharing willy-nilly.
Apparently you do. I'm like you got this whole treasure trove.
That group sex thought.
The one with which one?
Yeah, imagine a hotel room and everybody's having sex in the hotel room.
Oh my
god!
gosh.
Somebody goes in and poops.
Trey got this fantasy stuck in his head, y'all, where he's like, "Ooh, it's group
fantasy,
sex,
it's a bit,
and it's
but
wonderful."
Somebody poops, and then people are trying to have sex, and there's just a shit smell. I find that so funny. I don't think
that would be
miserable.
That would be miserable.
Yeah, and then leaves.
Well, and
that's the move. You poop. You get invited to an orgy. You poop in the bathroom because you can't get that out of there in a hotel room, and then you just
go. You just go.
It's so mean.
To me, that's what sexual privacy is an element of agency, autonomy, self-determination of whether or not you do share some of those things. I think every couple, every partnership, every throuple, every polyamorous grouping would benefit from talking about sexual privacy. Like, I acknowledge that you have an entire core erotic theme. You have a sexual self that was formed before you met me that has nothing to do with me. And that to nurture that is to benefit me, right? By setting you free to be apart from me, to grow in longing for me, to live in that erotic imagination just benefits my sex life. And same here, that checking in with each other of what really turns me on, what really turns me off, shout out previous episode, everybody should go listen, is really cool to do. Because we shared that. It was so fun to listen to her TED Talk, because the things that are turn-ons and turn-offs that are universal are exact things we shared, right? Taking care of yourself, being on, for me, purpose and mission, right? You being like, be apart from me. Don't be all up on me all the time. Let me miss you. Again, this is long-term. I always encourage people to think of, if they're in a long-term relationship and they are wanting escape, what is it that they're wanting to escape to, right? Could you go to that place in a sexual encounter instead?
And then your partner has to be strong enough to receive that. And say, oh, that's what you want? Show me. Oh, you want that? Show me.
Thanks for letting me do that.
You're welcome.
Thanks for... And I, of course, how great is it that like literally my match profile was like, I want a person who's not intimidated by my sexuality, because by the time I met you, I had done a lot of work on who I was as a sexual being and had pressed into some of those recesses of my erotic imagination and what really did turn me on. So yay, but it's never too late for anyone. It isn't. And I would be honored to work with folks to lean into integration of eroticism. It is one of my favorite things, because by allowing our erotic selves to live here, it's not secret. It's private, but it's not secret. You and I both know some of our ticklish, most erotically satisfying things, and there's no shame with that. You don't judge me. Yeah, sure, you're like, bump the age up, right? Like on some of these. But no, there's freedom for that. There's real freedom for that. Yeah, so that's, I mean, to tie it up, the creative monogamy phrase really is about being, I mean, we'll say in a given week, wow, it's like we slept with like 6 different people this week in our imaginations. Yeah. And therefore it makes the sex so exciting. So like.
And part of that, of wanting to actually go fuck other people, it gets quenched.
It's like I can.
Yeah.
At home.
In my mind, with my partner, it's the best.
Yeah. And then like.
So many people need to practice this. It's not shameful.
It's not shameful.
It's shameful if you qualify it as shameful, but it's not. You're not stealing from anybody. You're not manipulating anyone. And then if you incorporate the sexual privacy. Yeah, if you incorporate the sexual privacy, and then if your partner can kind of be okay with that boundary, or it's like, when you're ready, I would love to receive it. Yeah, game changer. Yeah, you can change your whole thing, and it doesn't take a lot. It takes a lot of action. It really takes removing a lot of different things. This is life. But yeah, you can change your whole life in a couple of months.
A lot of people tell me, well, I'm scared that I will not be able to, or that my partner will then want to go and sleep with all these people. Like if I'm nurturing that, right, that's going to mean that he's going to want to go and do it.
It's the opposite. When we actually started incorporating that, it's the opposite. And then you actually start fantasizing less about actually doing that in practicality, because you get to literally quench that physically and then in your imagination at the same time. And then you have the other person on the receiving end receiving it.
I always say we can read a book, right? We can read the novel of Peter Pan and then not go outside and try to fly. Like our brains can differentiate. We're smart. We're really smart. We didn't grow up being told, don't read fiction.
Go walk around with a golden sword, see where that gets you.
Right? Like we can do that. We can read fantasy. We can read fairy tales and not then think we're in the fairy tale.
Gold's a really soft metal. I don't know if his sword was golden. If it was, that's
Whose
a
sword?
mistake by the Disney writers.
Are you talking about like Sword in the Stone?
Bunch of drunks. No, Peter Pan. He had a golden sword. Hopefully, it was made
He has
out
a
of steel
sword?
or a knife, whatever, dude.
Peter Pan?
That young boy, they're all strapped. They all had things on them.
In
If it was 2023, it'd all be guns.
Are we talking about the movie Peter Pan? Like the Disney movie Peter Pan?
Should we stop there? I love you so much.
There's no sword.
I love you so much. He has a sword. He has a golden sword, honey.
Like a little one he pulls out of his belt?
Yeah, fuck yeah.
Like that.
To murder pirates with.
Such a good story. Such a good story. It's one of my
Stories were
favorites.
better back then.
Yeah,
Boys
it's so good.
murdering men.
Well, kids, right? I mean, that's
Yeah.
why I love Stranger Things.
Yeah, sweet young kids
I
just murdering.
love children solving the
murdering
problems. You want to be done. Okay, thank you.
I love you.
I love you so much.
Mwah.
Bye.
Bye.
The opinions expressed on this podcast are just that, opinions. We encourage you to take what you like and leave the rest. We love research and hope you do your own. We hope that our successes and failures enable you to build the partnerships you dream about. So I like to take a little minute just at the end of these podcasts to talk about the platform that we use for our podcast called Anchor. When we were first getting into the scene of podcasting, I didn't know much, but did a simple Google search and found that by just uploading one high-res video to Anchor's platform, it does the rest of the work for me, pushes out the audio and video to every platform podcast users use. So if you have any questions, feel free to reach out to me, and I'd love to tell you more about Anchor.